Create a culture where it's safe to speak up. And we are talking about transparency, but simple, but it's very powerful. But over time, I realized that the real transformation in businesses wasn't just in the financial numbers. It was in how people, processes, and technology came together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FaceTime with Leaders brought to you by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. Today, we're joined by a leader who's bridged the world of finance, technology, and transformation with remarkable precision, Mr. P. Santosh Kumar. Mr. Santosh, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you, Tanmay. It's great to be on this podcast and share my experience as well as what we have been through. I'm looking forward for a great conversation.
Likewise, sir. So, over a career spanning more than 15 years, you have worn many hats: finance strategist, agile transformation leader, business head, and change maker. From leading automation projects across southern India to overseeing financial governance in Dubai's fast paced business ecosystem, you've mastered the art of delivering outcomes at scale. Currently spearheading IT transformation at Solventek, Mr. Santosh is known for turning strategy into execution, even in complex, high stakes environments. And beyond the buzzwords, he's someone who believes in creating real impact, be it optimizing delivery, unlocking ROI, or coaching teams into high performance cultures.
So, yeah, I mean, just to give a small, the journey, what it had been, I'm glad to share that, my journey has been anything but linear. And that's probably what shaped me the most. I began in the world of finance and audit, working with Ernst& Young in my early days, where I got a strong foundation in the numbers, controls, and business integrity. That phase really built an eye for the detail and structure, which I think never left me. Then, as I grew, I took on the broader roles, moving to business strategy, operations, and eventually leading as a director of finance. But over time, I realized that the real transformation in businesses wasn't just in the financial numbers. It was in how people, processes, and technology came together. That led me into the technology and project delivery side, where I transitioned into an agile project lead role. That pivot was a turning point. It gave me an exposure to product thinking, stakeholder management, and digital change across industries, be it healthcare, insurance, and even manufacturing. So I think what kept me grounded is that I never stopped learning or unlearning. Whether I was driving revenue metrics or leading Scrum teams through tech upgrades, I always saw myself as a bridge between businesses and execution, between people and outcomes. So today, with over 2 decades of my experience, I see myself evolving towards board level leadership, where I can bring the cross functional perspective to strategy, governance, and sustainable impact. So, if you ask me what shaped my path, it's been the ability to move across roles, industries, challenges, but stay rooted in the clarity, adaptability, and the purpose. So, this is how my journey had been so far. Uh,
Lovely, sir. I mean, that sounds like such a layered journey, and it really sets the context for what I wanted to ask next, which is you managed to drive 40% improvement in project delivery, which is no small feat. So, what's your way of spotting these inefficiencies early on, and more importantly, how do you go about turning them into meaningful wins?
Well, thank you for that compliment, by the way. But I think it is just the start because, when you attach value with your work on any kind of project or any kind of venture, the value is something which every, interested person would be more, looking for it. So thanks, but it was more of a team effort but spotting and revolving inefficiencies has always been something I naturally lean to do. So, in one of my recent health tech projects, we were facing constant split overs on the sprint and unclear requirements and a backlog that seems busy but not purposeful. Rather than jumping into solutions, I started thinking with a simple observation loop, which is like sitting on the daily stand-up calls, watching across the team handoffs and speaking to both developers as well as the business users to understand what was really slowing us down. Now, three things stood out. The first, there was a huge disconnect in the stakeholders' visibility. Teams were working hard, but the priorities were unclear. Second, the technical debt wasn't being acknowledged, leading to frequent firefighting. And the third, our team, although they were highly skilled, but not truly cross functional, which means the dependencies were blocking the progress. So once that clarity was set, then we started trying to implement like what are the ways we should be taking an action to improve these. So then we implemented a very few simple but yet powerful changes. Like we realigned our backlog using value mapping with stakeholders. Then we introduced definition of ready or done, what people usually do in projects, Scrum or Agile environment, the done gates. So the scope creep was visibly controlled. And from a mindset perspective, we created a space where raising blockers early was seen as a strength, not as a failure. We use tools like what normally most of the agile teams use, the Jira boards for transparency. But the real shift was cultural, building trust and accountability, not just the velocity. Now, in 2 quarters after implementing these changes, we saw sprint delivery stabilize, the cycle time drop by nearly 40%. This win was just faster delivery. It was that the team felt in control. Stakeholders felt heard and quality improved organically. So to me, inefficiencies often hide in plain sight. It's about slowing down first, listening about bias, and then making a focused collaborative moves. So this was the story behind the compliment which you have actually given me. But yeah, this is how it sounds in the real world.
Very true. So I think the biggest of changes come from changing stuff at the grassroots level, like you just mentioned, that if you go and
True.
look deep at the base level, you can actually make those big changes, but we often miss that.
True.
So the kind of clarity that you've just said in execution always comes with lived experience. And speaking of culture, it's clear you've done a lot to instill agility at scale. So, but for leaders listening in who might not be running enterprise projects, what are few small day-to-day habits they can adopt right now to start driving real lasting change within their organizations?
Well, that's a pretty great question, honestly. And lasting change, I feel that often starts with small but consistent habits, not with a huge, big, complex strategies involving a team and, running down the numbers, statistics, and all. From my own experience, here are the three that have made a real difference across the teams I have led, whether in finance, operation, or tech. Start with number one is start with clarity over control. Now, when I say this, I have seen that most delays and disconnects happen not because people lack skill, but because there are unclear about what matters the most. So whether you are leading a large team or a small unit, take a few minutes every week to articulate what success looks like right now. It could be in a quick message, a check-in, or even a sticky note. But when your team knows the North Star, they self-organize better. And that's the best way to do it. Then second, create a culture where it's safe to speak up. And we are talking about transparency here. Now, it sounds simple, but it's very powerful. I always say make it normal to surface blockers, not embarrassing. In our stand-ups, I make it a point to thank people who raise concerns instead of brushing past them. Over time, this tendency has built a habit where teams didn't hide risks. They addressed them early. I would suggest this can be tried in any setting, even in finance, HR, or operations. And the third one, don't underestimate the power of the small retros. It's a kind of don't underestimate, but yeah, that's how it goes. When we do a retro, you don't need a formal agile setup to do this. So basically, what it means is after every milestone or even a tough week, ask what went well, what didn't went well, and what is that one thing we could have done better, or what could be done better next time. This simple rhythm of reflection builds accountability and agility into the culture. These aren't very big ticket changes, I should say, but when it is done consistently, they unlock trust, clarity, speed. And those three things in any industry are the foundation of any lasting impact. So I think these are the key takeaways which I should be talking about.
True, sir. I think if problem solving is inculcated in everybody and it's not made a deal where they are, almost blamed for it can become a very open and nice environment, like you just said.
True. That's really the a key kind of deduction what you could easily make out of it.
So, while small habits can definitely build a strong culture, I imagine things get even trickier when innovation meets compliance. You worked in high pressure zones like the Jebel Ali free zone. How do you keep regulatory discipline intact without letting it slow down the pace of innovation?
Talking about Jebel Ali Free Zone, yeah, that's a really relevant question, especially for leaders navigating fast-moving environments where compliance is non-negotiable. So my time at Jebel Ali Free Zone in Dubai taught me a lot about this balance. It's a zone where, as all know, cross-border trade, international finance, and regulatory oversight all converge at the same time. And you have to be meticulous but also move fast to stay the competitive, because things change very fast. Competitions are just on just beside you to trying to catch up with you or maybe move ahead with you. For instance, I recall during a multi-country vendor onboarding initiative where we had to comply with local tax, export laws, and corporate disclosures, while building a flexible commercial model for rapid scaling. At first glance, it felt like compliance would slow us down. But here's what helped. First, I stopped treating compliance as an afterthought and made it part of the design. Now, by doing this, we as a team embedded governance into the business process. So instead of chasing approvals post facto, we worked with auditors, legal, and regulators right from the blueprint stage. Now, this confidence had actually accelerated approvals because trust was already established. Second, I leaned onto the framework, not the friction. A solid regulatory checklist, clear notes, clear roles, and routine audits gave our teams the freedom to innovate within guardrails rather than fear the unknown. And the biggest mindset shift was compliance and innovation don't compete, but actually they complement each other. Where when your foundation is strong, you can build faster and higher. So I see governance as an enabler, not a blocker, whether it's Indian SEBI norms, UAE business laws, or internal audit protocols. If you approach them as a collaborators, not constraints, you will find a pace that's both fast as well as sound.
True, sir. What you said at the end there, pace is important, but it being sound is also very important, where we are sure that the process is the right one. Mr. Santosh, hearing about the scale and depth of your journey so far, it's only natural to wonder what's next. Like, do you see yourself stepping into more strategic boardroom roles, or is there a particular vision that still fuels your momentum today?
Well, that's a pretty thoughtful question and a perspective. But honestly, this phase of my career is absolutely intentional, intentional in the way that I thought this is something which I should be looking for. After 2 decades across finance, operation, digital delivery, I am not drawn towards the strategic layer of leadership where the decisions are not just about the next release or quarter, but the next generation of value, impact, and integrity. And yes, I do see myself stepping into independent director and board level roles, particularly in companies that are navigating transformation, whether that's digital, regulatory, or culture. I believe the kind of cross functional lens I bring in, understanding finance, governance, and agile execution, can help boards stay future ready and grounded. But more than the titles, what fuels me now is creating clarity and confidence in complex spaces, whether it's guiding a team through uncertainty, helping a company balance compliance and innovation, or mentoring future leaders. I enjoy building systems that are not just efficient but resilient and ethical. I am especially interested in industries like healthcare, tech, automotive, sustainable driven enterprises where governance and agility must go hand in hand. And so, yes, this is the time where I want to listen more, contribute deeper, play a role in shaping organizations that don't just grow, but grow right.
By all the thoughts you've shared, sir, I think it will be a privilege for any organization to have you with them.
I hope so.
Yeah. Mr. Santosh, given your depth across finance and IT leadership, I love your take on something that's reshaping boardrooms everywhere, which is ESG. In your experience, how do ESG principles actually influence day to day decisions in tech or finance? Is it something you're seeing evolve from compliance to culture?
Absolutely. Now, it's a shift I'm seeing firsthand. And I would say ESG is no longer just a compliance checklist. It's quietly but powerfully becoming a culture lens for decision making. In the earlier part of my career in finance, ESG was, if I remember correctly from all the instances that I have experienced, largely about disclosures, especially in the environmental side or financial ethics. But over the last few years, especially in the tech-driven and healthcare domains, I have seen it evolve into how teams think, how vendors are chosen, and how solutions are built. For example, in one of our recent healthcare automation projects, we had to rethink how data privacy wasn't just a regulation, it was a social trust issue. We began involving the security teams earlier in sprint cycles, building patient first design into testing, and even considering the carbon cost of a cloud hosting architecture. Now, that kind of design for impact thinking is ESG in action, basically. So, on the governance front, I have seen a real push towards transparency, inclusiveness, and long term thinking. As a project leader, I have made it a point to embed those principles into how I run stand ups, prioritize backlogs, or handle risk communication. So ESG is shifting from how do we stay compliant to how do we stay conscious. And I believe leaders, especially those in finance and tech, have a unique role to play in embedding this into everyday culture, not just the strategy desks.
True, sir. I think that is the way forward, and slowly, slowly, everyone is realizing it, which is great, especially with the advent of all the technologies. I think it becomes even more important. So, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on something closer to home. You recently became a part of Directors Institute community. What has that journey been like for you so far, and how is it aligned with your goals at this stage of your career?
Uh, it has been incredibly enriching, I should say, an experience so far. I joined the Directors Institute with the intent to expand from operational leadership into strategic governance and boardroom readiness. And I have to say, it has aligned perfectly with what I was looking for in my career. What drew me initially was the structure of the international directorship program. If you remember in the initial, the what I've said, since I had spent a lot of my time in Dubai, in Jebel Ali Free Zone and the Dubai market, so international program was something which I was more keenly looking at. And it's not just theory or compliance checklist. It's deeply focused on what it means to be a responsible, fast-pacing leader, whether it is ESG, boardroom dynamics, risk frameworks, or understanding SEBI LODR and Companies Act provisions. The content feels both practical as well as forward looking. What I have appreciated most in the quality of dialogue, the case studies, the peer discussions, the even the views shared by faculty and industry experts. These aren't just academic modules, they make you pause and reflect on how your decisions shape reputation, resilience, and responsible growth. For me, the program has acted like a mirror. It's helped me validate what I have already been doing right, and at the same time, exposed me to the nuances of fiduciary responsibility, ethical leadership, and long term stewardship. At this stage in my journey, where I'm consciously transitioning towards board and advisory roles, being a part of Directors Institute is not just a credential, it's a mindset shift, is what I keenly observe. And it's given me the confidence that my voice, backed by experience and the governance grounding, can truly add value in the.
Thank you for so much for those kind words, sir. And with that, we come to the close of yet another insightful episode of FaceTime with Leaders by Directors Institute. Thank you so much for taking us through your journey, sir, from agile transformation to financial leadership and everything in between. Your clarity, depth, and authenticity truly made this conversation memorable.
Thank you so much, Tanmay, and your team for giving me this opportunity and sharing the thoughts on the couple of questions what you had thrown on me. I hope that was useful, and I'm looking forward such kind of interactive question as more.
Absolutely, sir. And to our audience, we hope today's episode left you with fresh perspectives, actionable ideas, and a deeper appreciation for the evolving role of leadership in today's world. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and of course, have fun in your journey. This is Taniol signing off from FaceTime with Leaders. Take care, and stay inspired. Thank you so much.